Hello and welcome to another Positive Images Festival Poetry Workshop. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining me again. Thank you for those who have contacted me in between sessions with your lovely feedback. I'm so pleased that you find these useful. We're still at 98 subscribers, 2 more and we can use the live feature. So if you're able to help out and support in that way, then please do. If you've got a YouTube account, you just press the subscribe button below. We'll get straight into it. Enough of me trying to get you to subscribe. I thought we'd start off this one with a short poem. It's only 4 lines long and it's by Edward Thomas. Edward Thomas, 3rd of March 1878 to 9th of April 1917, was a poet, critic and biographer who is best known for his careful depictions of rural England and his understanding of the modern society's way of disconnecting and alienating itself from nature. He wrote all of his poetry over a 3-year span from 1914 to 1917. I'll tell you some more little facts about him afterwards actually, because he's really interesting and a great poet. So this is called Thaw. Over the land, freckled with snow half thawed, the speculating rooks at their nest cawed, and saw from elm tops, delicate as flowers of grass, what we below could not see, winter pass. So the words will be on the screen for you. Feel free to re-listen to that again. Thought we'd have a look at what rhymes can be found in the poem. So it's an AABB rhyme scheme. That just meant if we're assigning a letter to a sound that the line finishes with, we call the first one A. Anything with that same sound we call A. The next one we call B. Anything with that same sound is then B, if you see the example. So thawed rhymes with chord, so we call them AA. They're the rhyming couplet. And then we've got a second rhyming couplet, grass and pass, or if you're not from Coventry you might say grass and pass, and if you are from Coventry you might just speak nicer than me anyway, which is fine. So we've got that beautiful just gentle rhyme scheme in it. Also, the interesting thing for me anyway about this poem is that the words are very short. There's very low syllable count to these words. A syllable, we've done this before, is just like the sounds that you can separate. The easiest way to do it is with a clap. So if I'm doing table, that's 2 syllables. Table, Emily, 3 syllables. We teach that at primary school. I still do it in my head like that because it's the best way of working out syllables. You might tap on the table, it might be a little more subtle. The only word that stands out really, especially for it's not the most poetic word, and also it has got the most syllables in this poem, is speculating rooks. And some critics have said this word is in there because it's the only word that has a human quality to it. Humans speculate. That's how our brains work. It's something that we consider is a very human trait. Do rooks speculate? And maybe it's just adding that human element and showing it doesn't really belong in this poem. A poem that is all about nature and the idea that the rooks and the natural world can spot this winter passing before we even notice it. We can't see that. What we below could not see. In this poem, I think we is referring to humans. For me, the length of the poem is so short, it's important because it's a sort of blink and you miss it thing, you know, we're like, oh, spring's arrived, winter left. But actually the land, the birds, nature has been noticing this gently happening. It hasn't suddenly happened, it's spotted it. You know, but it's a brief thing, this change. But they're more aware of it than we are. That's just my interpretation. There's no right or wrong because once the poem's out in the world, it's up to you. As long as you can back up why you think what you think, then you're allowed to think it. Here's my little fascinating facts to do with Edward Thomas really, who I gave you a little bit of a bio about earlier. but W.H. Davis, who's another great poet, you probably know him from the Centre Parks adverts. We have no time to stand and stare. That's Davis. He was big friends with Edward Thomas, and he was so devastated by Thomas's death in World War One. He died from a gunshot wound, I believe, in France, that Davis dedicated a poem to him called Killed in Action that was included in his own 1918 collection, Raptures. The other little poetry link is to another of my absolute faves, Robert Frost. One of the poems that I've definitely used in my workshops because I quote it all the time is The Road Less Travelled. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. That's the famous lines from that poem. And a lot of people read that poem to be a really serious meaning, like a really powerful meaning to it. Oh, you know, I've taken a different road and that's made all the difference. But if you really look into the poem, Frost's joke was that the indecision of his friend, it didn't matter which road he took in the end. It was just, he was mocking the indecision of his friend, and the friend who he was you know, having fun about in the poem was in fact Edward Thomas, the poet who wrote Thor. And it was actually Frost's poem that inspired Edward Thomas to sign up to the war. Is the story that Frost sent him a copy before it went out to publish it to make fun of his indecision. So he decided to do something decisive, and of course it was a big decision with tragic consequences. So there's your little facts about the poem. I could keep going for ages, I won't, because we're already 7 minutes in. Here's your activity from our 5-minute poetry video. The season's changing again. Last night, the clocks went forward. It is forward, isn't it? Write a poem inspired by these changes. And if you want to do a short poem with 4 lines in, then go for it. And I will see you next month if you just watch the quick ones, or I will see you in the main poetry video for March if you enjoy watching the longer sessions as well. Okay, have fun, happy writing!